Hi, I'm Katie.albee. I'm a real estate agent in Boulder, Colorado. Today's video is the fourth in a 5-part series on getting ready to buy a home. Once you're under contract, congratulations first of all, now you're going to see a lot of dates and deadlines, and this could be a bit of an overwhelming process, but I want to show you some of those dates and deadlines so you can get familiar with what to expect. And also, don't be afraid to ask questions. You're going to have 2 good resources in this process. One is going to be your real estate agent, and the other is going to be your contact with the title company. The first document that you're going to see is a seller's property disclosure, and you may even get a copy of this before you go under contract, or within 1 to 3 days after going under contract, you should get a copy of this document. And what this document is something that the seller fills out. They're listing what they know about the home. They may be listing the age of the mechanicals, whether or not maybe there's been some issues with the home, like a flood or a fire, or any other issues that they might know about the home. This is where they would disclose that. Now, it's important for you to really pay attention to this document because it'll tell you a bit about what to expect about the home and what you're getting into. If the place has an old roof or an old water heater, that may be some costs that you want to consider. You may also see that a flood happened, and then when it comes time for the inspection, you may decide that you want to pay a little bit more and have the inspection include testing for mold. Next is going to be the title work, and this usually gets turned around pretty fast from the title company. What the title company is doing is they're looking at the history of the home to make sure that there's a clean title and that there aren't any liens from any outside vendors or parties on the home. And when you get this title work, just read through it and make sure it's clean. If you see any issues, maybe there's a lien on the home, then you want to go back to the seller and say, hey seller, you take care of this, because you don't want to buy the home and inherit this issue. Next, if applicable, if you're buying a condo or some attached townhome perhaps, there could be an HOA involved. You're going to want to pay close attention to these documents. You're going to want to read through the rules and regulations because you don't want to be surprised by perhaps there's a policy that only small dogs are allowed and you have a 90-pound lab. Don't be surprised by this. Read through everything and make sure you're comfortable with it. And also, you're going to want to pay close attention to the past meeting minutes and financial information. You may see in past meeting minutes that people have repeatedly brought up that there's some issue with the building, but you see over and over again that the board hasn't voted to fix this. That might be a red flag for you. Also, when you look at the financial information, you want to make sure that there are good savings happening because perhaps once you move in, a boiler breaks down and then there's a special assessment. So make sure that you're really comfortable with the financial statements. Next is the inspection, and there's sort of 3 parts that happen to this, and the first is the inspection itself. Once you get under contract, go ahead and order that inspection right away. I've watched way too many people not take this seriously enough. Order that inspection right away so you have time to work through any issues that may come up. When the inspector goes to the home, I really encourage you to join them. It'll help you get more familiar with the house, and you can ask the inspector a lot of questions. Once you get the inspection report back, try not to be too overwhelmed. It's very common that inspectors write a really long, thorough list of everything that they notice in the house. This is just their process. It covers their tail. And there could be a number of smaller, nitpicky things that maybe actually aren't that important, so you might not need to be too overwhelmed. What you're really looking for are whether or not there are any health and safety issues in the home. If you see any of those, like maybe there's a radon issue or something is leaking and hasn't been taken care of, that's what you want to object on. And that's the next deadline that comes up with the inspection. Now, there also may be a number of things that you just don't like cosmetically with the home, or you're not happy that maybe there's an old water heater in the home. You're going to want to have a conversation with your agent about this. An agent should be really good at being able to read the waters. There's a couple things that go into this if you wanted to object to maybe more basic minor cosmetic things about the home. One, it could depend upon the market. If it's a really fast-paced seller's market, it may not even fly to ask for the paint to be touched up. And the other thing is your agent should have a really good read on the other party. Now, in an ideal world, we would all just say this is just business and not get our egos involved. But sometimes there are some hot-headed people involved on the other side. So you want an agent who knows how to read the waters and walk through this process gently. Then, once you've submitted your objection, there will be a bit of back and forth before you get to that final resolution. And when it comes to the resolution, it may be that you decided to take care of items 1, 2, and 3, but not 4, or it may be that you've taken care of a few items, but you're specifying how it's going to be taken care of. So that's the inspection process. Next, if this is applicable, you may have a survey done on the home, and this is going to be determined by your lender. If you are buying a smaller attached home, survey is usually not necessary, but sometimes lenders want to know, maybe you're buying a detached home, is the fence actually on the property, or is there going to be a dispute with the neighbor because it was built on theirs? Lenders want to be really careful about what they're getting themselves into. And sometimes with mountain properties, you may end up doing a full survey. It really just depends on the circumstances. Then there's the appraisal. This also depends upon whether or not you're getting a loan. If you're buying all cash, you don't have to do an appraisal, but maybe you want to because it could be a good leverage point for you in your negotiations with the other side. If you're getting a loan, the lender is going to be the one who orders this appraisal, and it's important to them because they want to make sure that they're not spending too much on the loan of your home. Now, if the appraisal comes in higher than what you offer to pay for the home, congratulations, you have instant equity. If it comes in lower, this may need to be a negotiation point. Perhaps you have the cash and it's a very strong seller's market and you just decide, I'm going to cover the difference, it's fine. Or maybe you don't have the money for that, or it's not such a strong market, and so you decide to negotiate with the seller to lower that cost. And finally, it's going to be the loan itself. This is usually the last hurdle that you have to get through, and it's the lender coming back and saying, your funds are good, the home checks out great, we think this is a solid investment. And at this point, you're on your way to the closing table.